Janie Porter Barrett was born in Athens, Georgia, on August 9, 1865. Her mother, Julia Porter, was a former slave. Her father's name, however, is unknown, but because of her fair skin, it is believed that he was Caucasian. Her mom worked as a live in-house keeper and a seamstress for the Skinner family. The Skinners pampered Janie and educated her along with their own children, with an education in literature and mathematics. Her mom married a railway worker and lived with him while still working for the Skinner family. However, Janie continued to live with the Skinners. Mrs. Skinner wanted to become Janie's legal guardian so she could send her to a school in the northern United States so she could live as a white person, but her mom would not let her. Janie's mom sent her to Hampton Institute in Hampton, Virginia, where she would live as a black person in the black environment. At the Hampton Institute, she had to do manual labor for the first time. Hampton emphasized vocational education, and the women were trained in morality and housekeeping in preparation for careers as wives or domestics. She began to volunteer for community projects that helped people. She trained as an elementary school teacher at the Institute. She graduated from Hampton in 1885. She first worked as a teacher in a rural school in Dawson, and then at an institute in Georgia. She taught night school classes in the Hampton Institute from 1886 to 1889. In 1889, she married Harris Barrett, who was a cashier and a bookkeeper at the Institute. They had 4 children. Janie devoted herself to social service work. Her first major project of her career was to create the Locust Street settlement in 1890. Locust Street was the first settlement house for black people in the United States. The work of Locust Street was started by Janie inviting a few girls once a week to her home. Helping girls and women was carried on as a personal venture until her husband helped her build a separate clubhouse facility. The number and level of activities increased to include clubs for women, boys, lectures, and general social work. Locust Street House had a playground and a library and encouraged athletic games. Janie Barrett's approach to social reform also included interracial cooperation. She established relations with a wide range of organizations, and she had contacts with white social reformers such as Jane Addams, who gave a Chicago Tea Party at Hull House in honor of her, and she recognized her work. In 1908, Janie Barrett became a founder of the Virginia State Federation of Colored Women's Club. During 1910, she forged important creative alliances with members and leaders of white women's organizations in Virginia. In 1914, the Virginia Federation was purchased, which was on a farm and was used as a rehabilitation center for black girls in trouble with the law. Barrett established a standard of care for dependent black children who had been treated poorly. Janie became the superintendent of the Virginia Industrial School for Colored Girls from 1915 until her retirement in 1940, by which it had been part of the Virginia state system of schools for poor and needy girls. The aim of the new institution was to help girls develop Christian character. She encouraged using rewards instead of punishments. The facility's role was a home rather than a prison. Students were expected to work on farms or as domestics until they were able to establish their own homes. The residents of the industrial school were for the most part delinquent or dependent colored girls sentenced to prison by local judges and then paroled to the school. There were no foster homes for colored girls who needed care, and jail and prison were the only alternative. These girls learned about and became engaged in routines of work, play, and religion. Before 1920, the Virginia legislature provided funds to establish similar institutions for Caucasian girls and boys, but did not extend the service to African American girls and boys. Janie helped students who were ready to improve or transform their lives. She advocated for Black voting and participation in the government. By 1920, with help from child welfare leaders such as Dr. Hastings Hart, the institution had achieved national recognition. The William E. Harmon Award for Distinguished Achievement Among Negroes was presented to her in 1929. 2 years after her death, on August 27, 1948, the Virginia General Assembly named the Hanover County School the Janie Porter Barrett School for Girls. It became racially integrated in 1965. The Virginia Industrial School exists today as Barrett Learning Center. In 1930, she took part in the White House Conference on Child Health and Protection. She also served as the president of the Virginia State Federation of Colored Women's Clubs for 25 years. She chaired the executive board of the National Association of Colored Women for 4 years. She died in Hampton on August 27, 1948.